Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The Washington, D.C. sun was rising tentatively behind the skyscrapers, painting the city in golden and orange hues. Traffic was heavy but calm, the occasional honking horn only occasionally erupting here and there. Yet this morning, an unexpected event would turn the routine upside down. A simple traffic stop turned into a confrontation no one could have imagined. The young, confident white police officer wore his impeccably pressed uniform. He had spent years following the rules to the letter, firmly believing his authority was absolute. When he saw the military vehicle driving slowly ahead, he saw only an ordinary driver, thinking he was dealing with a simple traffic violation. He signaled the driver to stop, his tone already stern, almost authoritarian, even before the vehicle came to a stop. Inside, behind the wheel, sat a man with a calm but penetrating gaze, whose mere presence commanded respect. He wore the uniform of a U.S. Army general, decorated with medals and insignia that spoke of decades of courageous service and sacrifice. His dark skin contrasted with the gleam of his uniform, yet he radiated a natural authority that rivaled that of the police officer outside. The policeman stepped forward, ticket book in hand, ready to enforce the law, but completely unaware of the general's identity. He repeated the standard phrases, almost mechanically, license and papers. You know why I'm arresting you. The general, for his part, watched calmly, showing neither anger nor impatience, but every word, every gesture of the policeman seemed to fuel a latent sense of justice that would soon manifest itself. What seemed like a routine check would quickly turn into a lesson in humility for the police officer. For this general knew the weight of honor, of discipline, and above all, he knew that sometimes, karma strikes faster and harder than one thinks. Every moment that followed prepared a scene where the true power would not be that of the uniform, but that of wisdom, dignity and, the subtle revenge of fate. As morning drew on, the crisp Washington air still carried the scent of coffee and freshly printed newspapers. The white police officer, named Officer Ryan Thompson, watched the military SUV slow around the corner. His instincts told him to intervene. Without further thought, he signaled the driver to stop. Inside, General Marcus Bennett, a black man in his 50s, his face marked by years of service and combat, slowed down calmly. He placed his hands on the steering wheel, looking straight ahead, impassive. Hello, sir, can you show me your license and papers? Ryan asked, his voice firm and a touch condescending. Marcus replied calmly. Of course, officer. Everything is in order. Ryan looked at the military uniform and the medals on the dashboard, but his arrogance didn't allow him to immediately recognize the general's rank and identity. He jotted something down in his notebook and began to raise his voice. You were speeding. I'm going to have to stop you. Marcus remained silent, his eyes reflecting complete mastery of the situation. He knew his career, honor, and dignity were not threatened by this impulsive young officer. Yet he sensed that this moment would teach an important lesson. Sometimes, those who think they wield power are the first to learn humility. The police officer began filling out the forms, unaware that he was about to set off a chain of events that would turn karma against him. The general, always calm, let the situation pass, but his thoughts were gearing up to ensure that this interaction would not remain just a simple traffic stop. As Officer Ryan Thompson filled out his ticket book, he sensed a slight tension in the air, as if something unexpected was about to happen. He looked up at General Marcus Bennett, hoping for a reaction of concern or panic, but saw only calm and assurance. Mr. Bennett, Ryan continued, your speeding is serious. I'll have to accompany you to the station for inspection. Marcus nodded slightly, his deep black eyes staring at the officer. If you insist, officer. But know that I know my rights. Ryan felt a shiver of annoyance. To him, the man simply seemed arrogant, thinking he could evade the law. He then ordered the general to exit the vehicle. Marcus obeyed slowly, with dignity, each movement precise, demonstrating the discipline of a seasoned soldier. That's when karma began to strike. As Ryan tried to inspect the vehicle, a radio call blared over his service radio. His usually authoritative voice trembled slightly. Thompson, we've received an emergency call. The area you're monitoring needs you immediately. Ryan, confused, looked at Marcus. You have to come with me to, well, stay here for a few minutes, Anne. But Marcus, with almost insolent calm, intervened. Officer Thompson, perhaps you should first make sure your other responsibilities are covered before attempting to arrest me. At that moment, another police vehicle arrived at full speed. Ryan's colleagues, alerted by radio, demanded his immediate attention. Caught off guard, Ryan realized he could no longer control the situation. The general, for his part, remained perfectly still, a barely perceptible smile playing on his lips. This small incident, which seemed insignificant at first, had already begun to reverse the roles. The policeman, supposed to impose authority, found himself overwhelmed, while the general, master of patience and timing, calmly observed the lesson that fate had just offered him. General Marcus Bennett remained calm as Officer Ryan Thompson darted from vehicle to vehicle, trying to manage the unforeseen emergency that had arisen a few blocks away. The police officer, usually in control of every situation, felt the weight of the unexpected on his shoulders for the first time. Marcus, Ryan whispered, trying to regain control. Well, this isn't the time to. But the general, with a calm and firm voice, replied. Officer Thompson, it seems you're distracted by other emergencies. Perhaps you should attend to them before continuing your inspection. Ryan felt a growing frustration. Every word the general said seemed to highlight his momentary incompetence. And worse, Marcus's calm, confident gaze made him look almost ridiculous. It was as if karma was sending him a subtle but powerful message: respect can't be bought with a uniform. To make matters worse, a civilian approached and observed the scene. He seemed surprised to see a disoriented officer facing a man sitting calmly in his military vehicle. A few passers-by began filming the scene with their phones. Ryan felt his face heat up. This was no longer a simple arrest, this was a moment where his pride was on the line in front of witnesses. Mr. Bennett, Ryan said, trying to regain his authority, can you just cooperate? Marcus nodded slowly, without getting up from the vehicle. I'm already cooperating, officer. But I think you should reconsider your approach. At that precise moment, Ryan realized he was in over his head. The situation he thought was under control was completely spiraling out of control. The general, with his patience and self-control, had just given him his first lesson in humility. You can never underestimate the experience and calm of a true leader. Karma had struck for the first time. What should have been a routine arrest turned into a silent humiliation, a lesson Ryan would never forget. Marcus, however, watched with a slight smile, ready to let events continue to unfold, knowing that justice and dignity were on the side of those who waited for the right moment. Officer Ryan Thompson was used to controlling every situation, every interaction, and every order he gave. But this morning, every plan he thought was foolproof seemed to collapse like a house of cards. After the incident on the road, he had returned to his patrol car to retrieve his notebook and write up the report. Little did he know, karma had another, much more direct lesson for him. As he dialed the information into his radio system, a call from the switchboard rang out, but this was no simple, routine emergency. The voice on the other end announced. Thompson, you are requested to report to the central station immediately to respond to a complaint. The incident involves a military vehicle, and the driver is Marcus Bennett. Ryan felt his heart skip a beat. The name rang in his ears. Marcus Bennett. General Marcus Bennett. He had arrested a general in the U.S. Army. A man whose reputation and power far exceeded anything Ryan knew. And now, all his mistakes and arrogance would be exposed in front of his superiors. The policeman took the wheel urgently, driving quickly toward the station. Every red signal seemed to slow him down, every horn made him more nervous. He could almost feel the general's gaze weighing on him, even from a distance. When Ryan finally arrived at the station, he was greeted by the police chief, his face serious. Thompson, I've heard you've arrested a general. Can you explain how this happened? Ryan stuttered, trying to explain the speeding ticket and the traffic stop. But the chief, impassive, cut him off. Do you realize that this kind of incident can have serious diplomatic and media consequences? At that precise moment, Marcus Bennett entered the station. His impeccable uniform, his dignified bearing, and his natural calm filled the room. All eyes turned toward him. Ryan felt heat rise in his face. Karma had struck again. The officer supposed to impose authority found himself humiliated, in front of his superiors and in front of the general himself. Marcus walked slowly towards Ryan, a slight smile on his lips, and said, "Officer Thompson, I believe we have a misunderstanding to clarify." Every word the general spoke seemed calculated, deliberate, and yet terribly powerful. Ryan understood then that it wasn't just his career that could be affected, but his ego, his reputation, and his pride. The karma was only just beginning. After the incident at the police station, Officer Ryan Thompson thought he could quietly retreat and fix the situation before it escalated. But Marcus Bennett had other plans. The general, with his calm and complete self-possession, understood perfectly the power of subtle humiliation. And he knew how karma could strike where it hurts most, in public. The next morning, a military ceremony was taking place near the Capitol, with the local press and several high-ranking officers in attendance. Ryan had been summoned to testify about the previous day's incident, naively thinking he could justify his actions. He arrived, his uniform impeccable but his stomach in knots, already sensing something was wrong. Marcus Bennett, always elegant and serene, stood at the center of the ceremony, saluting the officers and receiving the honors he had earned for years. When Ryan was called to testify, the press rushed toward him, cameras in hand, microphones out. Each word he spoke seemed weaker than the last. He explained the situation hesitantly, but his account betrayed his agitation and lack of control. The general, seeing this, intervened calmly. "Officer Thompson, I want to clarify that everything was in order and that your intervention, although enthusiastic, was not necessary." The press picked up every word. Ryan felt his cheeks burn, his credibility melting in front of all these witnesses. Even some colleagues who had always admired him began to exchange embarrassed glances. Karma had struck again, and this time, it was public and irrevocable. Marcus, with an almost imperceptible smile, concludes, "It is always good to remember that patience, vigilance and mutual respect are more powerful than any authority imposed by a uniform." At that moment, Ryan fully understood that yesterday had been a warning. Karma, patient and methodical, had just inflicted a humiliation he would never forget. He had thought he had the situation under control, but the reality was clear. Underestimating someone like Marcus Bennett came at a very high price. After the public humiliation of the military ceremony, Officer Ryan Thompson thought he could regain some semblance of control over his daily life. But relentless karma wouldn't give him any respite. Every move, every decision would now be scrutinized. The next day, Ryan was summoned to the police chief's office. His colleagues whispered as he passed, and he could feel the others' stares, heavy and critical. The chief, impassive, sat him down. "Thompson," he began, "there have been several complaints about your involvement with General Bennett. You were supposed to be exercising control, not creating a diplomatic incident." Ryan felt a lump form in his throat. Every word the leader said seemed to weigh a ton. I just thought," he answered hesitantly. "Your intentions are not enough, Thompson. You will be temporarily suspended while we investigate." The officer felt the ground shift beneath his feet. A temporary suspension, and possibly a permanent note on his record. Karma was now striking professionally. But that wasn't all. Social media had seized on the story. Videos of the incident were already circulating online, with increasingly virulent comments. Ryan had become, in spite of himself, a symbol of misplaced arrogance. Every notification on his phone was a reminder that the whole world had witnessed his silent defeat. Meanwhile, Marcus Bennett remained discreet but in control. He had chosen not to use his power to further publicly humiliate Ryan. Yet his mere presence, his calm, and his dignity were enough to demonstrate that true authority cannot be bought with a uniform. Ryan went home that night with a heavy heart, realizing that karma never stopped at a single lesson. Every arrogance, every overconfidence, every underestimation of another had a price. And he had just paid his. After his suspension, Officer Ryan Thompson was determined to redeem himself. He realized that his arrogance and lack of caution had cost him dearly. Every morning, as he put on his uniform, he still felt the weight of public humiliation and the loss of credibility. Determined to regain the respect of his colleagues and superiors, Ryan sought a way to contact Marcus Bennett to apologize in person. He knew that the general, with his calm and wise manner, could turn this incident into an even more memorable lesson if Ryan acted inappropriately. So he called Marcus's office and asked for a meeting. To his surprise, the general agreed, with the same calm that had unsettled him from the start. "Officer Thompson, I'll give you a few minutes. Be clear and honest." During the meeting, Ryan tried to explain. "General Bennett, I am deeply sorry for my behavior. I should never have." Marcus interrupted him gently. "Thompson, you've already paid the price for your arrogance. The humiliation, the suspension, these are lessons. The important thing now is what you do with them." Ryan felt a mixture of relief and frustration. He wanted to show that he had changed, but the general wasn't giving him easy validation. Marcus continued. "You must understand that authority is not proven by force or intimidation, but by respect and self-control." Ryan nodded, trying to hold back his emotions. He knew karma still had surprises in store for him, but he was determined to learn this time. Marcus silently let him digest his words. As Ryan left the general's office, he felt something change within him. Humiliation and karma had served their purpose. He had finally understood that respect is earned, not imposed. Yet, he was unaware that fate still had one last lesson to offer him before he could truly move on. A few days after his meeting with Marcus Bennett, Officer Ryan Thompson thought he could resume his normal professional life. He had taken notes, reflected on his mistakes, and tried to be more humble in front of his colleagues. But karma, ever patient, had one last lesson for him, and this time, it would strike where he least expected it. That morning, Ryan was sent to inspect a suspicious vehicle near a residential area. There, he immediately recognized the car, the one Marcus had driven during the traffic incident. His heart sank. Was this another trap? As he approached, he saw Marcus exit the vehicle, accompanied by several plainclothes military officers. Ryan felt a subtle panic rise within him, but he forced himself to remain calm. Marcus walked towards him with that same controlled smile. "Officer Thompson, it seems you're here at the wrong time again," Marcus said quietly. Before Ryan could respond, a camera hidden behind a tree clicked into place. The military officers were there for a sensitive security operation, and Marcus had anticipated that the presence of an uninformed police officer could cause a misunderstanding. With patience and foresight, Marcus transformed the situation into a demonstration of caution and tactical intelligence. Ryan immediately realized he was being humiliated again, but this time, subtly and strategically. Marcus had beaten him to it again, demonstrating that experience, thoughtfulness, and control always trump impulsiveness. "Thompson," Marcus concluded, "true strength lies not in punishing or controlling, but in understanding and anticipating. You still have a long way to go, but I believe you can learn." Ryan bowed his head, aware that karma had delivered its final lesson. This wasn't just about humiliation or career loss, but about a true personal reassessment. For the first time, he felt ready to truly change. After the latest incident with Marcus Bennett, Officer Ryan Thompson returned home that evening with a strange feeling, a mixture of relief, shame, and determination. He knew karma had played its part and his pride had been seriously damaged, but he was finally beginning to understand the true meaning of respect and humility. The next day at the police station, Ryan approached his work differently. Every interaction with colleagues, every routine check, every decision was now measured, thoughtful, and imbued with patience. He took the time to listen before judging, to observe before acting, aware that haste had been his greatest weakness. When he received a call to help resolve a minor dispute between civilians, Ryan approached the situation calmly. He took the time to talk to each party, understand their perspectives, and find a just solution. For the first time in a long time, he felt a deep satisfaction, not in having imposed his authority, but in having acted with discernment and respect. General Marcus Bennett, informed of these changes by some officers in the field, made a mental note of Ryan's progress. While he had never sought to humiliate the officer for the sake of it, he had acted in a way that would have resulted in a lasting learning experience. And now he saw that the lesson had paid off. Ryan, for his part, was beginning to understand something fundamental. True strength lies not in displayed power, but in the ability to control oneself, to respect others, and to anticipate the consequences of one's actions. Every humiliation, every failure, every mocking look from the past was now transformed into a springboard to becoming a better police officer, and a better man. That day marked a turning point. Karma had struck, but it had also paved the way for a profound transformation. Ryan Thompson was no longer just an impulsive police officer, he was on the path to becoming someone thoughtful, respectful, and trustworthy. A few weeks after the events, Officer Ryan Thompson had changed profoundly. His attitude at the station and in the field was different, more thoughtful, more respectful, more humble. His colleagues began to notice his growth, some skeptical at first, but all impressed by his ability to learn from his mistakes. One morning, Ryan received a call from General Marcus Bennett himself. The voice, calm and measured, invited Ryan to a meeting. This time, it wasn't for a lecture, but to acknowledge the officer's progress. "Officer Thompson," Marcus said with a slight smile, "I've been following your actions over the past few weeks. You've shown patience, discernment, and respect. I'm impressed." Ryan, moved, felt a huge weight lifted from his shoulders. "Thank you, General Bennett. Your lessons were difficult, but I understood them. I will never forget them." The general nodded. "Respect and humility are rare qualities. You have begun to internalize them. Always remember that true authority is earned by example, not force." For the first time in a long time, Ryan felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Karma had been harsh, but fair. Every humiliation, every lesson, every mistake had led him to become a better man and a better police officer. Later, as he drove away, Ryan thought back to that morning on the road, when he'd stopped Marcus Bennett, thinking he had everything under control. It all seemed so distant, almost surreal. He smiled, realizing that true power lies not in the uniform, but in character, patience, and self-control. That day, Ryan Thompson's story finally became a lesson that will forever be etched in your mind. Karma always strikes, but it also offers a chance for redemption, transformation, and becoming the best version of yourself.